majors here? Majors in our band to see. Jerry was our drum major. Any other drum majors here tonight? I think Jerry's the only drum major here tonight. Fuzzy was as good as any of them. And if you recall, we had the big old hat, and he put that hat on my shirt. And so that's one band story, the Fuzzy story that goes in. The second one is one, I think Kathy asked me to tell this one, and maybe you remember the marching band show. I remember some of the kids, and this is a Gary Sorensen story. We did a marching band show once where, as I recall, we had the band come out and we marched down the hash marks. And we came out in two big lines down the hash marks. And we were supposed to stop. I think it was, you'd come to the 40-yard line and you'd stop. So I put Gary right on the end. And I said, surely Gary by now has learned how to do it. So I had full confidence in the world that Gary would be there. And Kathy was right behind him, as I recall, and there might have been some more that were behind. And I also had made the standard rule. Remember the standard rule: don't ever look like you're making a mistake. You know? Yeah. If you make a mistake, go on. Well, Gary comes down, and I do have this one on the film somewhere.
I've seen it.
Gary's coming down, and he misjudges.
Oh yeah.
And he stops. I think 10 yards too soon.
It was the 35 yard.
And so behind him is like a bunch of dominoes. And you get to Kathy, and if you recall, Kathy played a Barry sax. And of course, Kathy runs into the guy and drops the music. And so she breaks the rule. She reaches down to get the music, and somebody steps on her hand. And by this time, we got chaos going on the deal, and I'm sitting there going absolutely gaga. And somehow we recovered, and we got through the thing. But the best part about that was after the show, I had some people come and they said, you know, Mr. Keith, that was the best show we have ever seen here. We don't know how you were able to do that. I said, well, you have to work hard at that. It is rivaled only by, and this was not a Ron Keith band story, but I don't know, maybe Bill Reed might. I can't remember who the guy was that was the band director here. It was a jazzer, I can't remember. It was before Schroyer. I think this was why he left. He had about a 20-piece band, something like that. And one time EA was playing Phoenix College, and Phoenix College had about 150-piece band. These days when Phoenix College was huge. None of you kids were even born yet. I wasn't even there, you know. But this is, like I say, this is not a Ron Keith story. But I know it really happened because there's a guy down in Duncan, one of the Lunts, that was in the band. He remembers what it was. Phoenix College came over and they did this huge, terrific band show. And you know, all of the whistles and stuff that you'd have in the 50s and 60s in the marching band. And EA band's just sitting there in the stands, just kind of sitting on their hands. They were saying, well, isn't the band going to do something? And so pretty soon the band director looked over again, go out and make a horse. And I guess they did. I guess they went out to that. But I've saved the best story for last because it's a classic that will be one of the major, well, it gets a whole chapter in the book. I don't know how many of you were in the band when we dedicated the Fine Arts Center. Anybody left when we dedicated the Fine Arts Center? Okay, you remember this one then. We decided we were going to do the 1812 Overture. And we really worked hard to do the 1812 Overture. And you guys were great. It was just phenomenal performance, the 1812 Overture. David Armstrong was one who made sure, he says, now, Miss Keith, you make sure you tell that story tonight because he says, that was my band memory, and that thing. Well, as you probably, and he even knew the kid, I can't remember his name, but he was some kid from Patagonia. We had some cowboy in the band from Patagonia, and we put him in the percussion section because he didn't do very much else. But he was our designated cannon guy. And so when we got to the part in the 1812 Overture where we did the cannons, we figured, well, you know, how are we going to make this work? Well, the guy, well, I don't know how to do that. He pulled out his .38 pistol, and we loaded it with blanks. And it was great because he just shoot it into the trash can. And boy, you shoot a .38 pistol into a trash can with a blank, and you've got a real can. And it was marvelous. It was great. And we got to the performance. Well, the day before the performance, the Milton, remember Milton Clough, our janitor down there for years and years, who did such a good job for us. Well, Milton decided he was going to clean everything up, so he came around, he swept everything, took all the waste bags and everything, dumped them in the garbage can. Up until that point, it would have always been an empty garbage can. So here we get to performance. We get in the middle of the 1812 overture, and the kid pulls his gun, he goes out to the garbage can, and he looks down in it, and then he looks up at me and he says, he goes like that. I said, get him. And he said, all right. So he shoots. Lights everything on fire. And this is the dedication of the building, you know. And pretty soon there's all this smoke and flame shooting out of the fire. And he's still shooting. He'd learned Mr. Keith's rule, well, you just do it. So here we go. Well, meanwhile, the rest of the percussion section is running around like a Chinese fire drill, trying to figure out what to do with it. And in those days, we used to have this huge ride cymbal, about that big, that was just big enough to cover the garbage can. And so the percussion section go around, they grab this cymbal and they put it over the garbage can, which did a pretty good job of stifling the fire all right, except for the rest of the show, there's this little hole right in the middle of the cymbal. And the rest of the thing was seeing the smoke. We had the smoke alarms going on. The Thatcher Fire Department responded. And again, after the production, one of the good people in the town says, "Wow, you really made that dramatic. I've really gone to that extent." So if those are my favorite. There's a thousand famous Eac Band stories. I could tell one on Kim, and I could tell one on Carrie, and of course I could write a book on Gary and Dennis and Rick Chappelle. And Jerry, and Jeff Pogue. Somebody asked me about Jeff Pogue today, and I'd like you to know Jeff is a neonatologist. He's a very, very, very accomplished doctor. The thing I remember most about Jeff, if you ever had to go anywhere, Jeff, he ground his teeth. And I remember we'd be coming home at night. We'd come home at night, we'd be coming home, we'd look over there and the band, and there's Jeff, sound asleep. So I worried about him.
I was a roommate, I thought somebody was sawing me.
Well, anyway, those, if anybody has any other favorite Eac Band stories, those are my crowning ones, but there may be some more. If there's one you got a particular laugh out of, Jerry.
What happened to Red Dog Gardner?
Red Dog Gardner is still around.
Works at Phelps Dodge.
He works at Phelps Dodge, and he still looks the part. And I think he still goes by Red Dog. I was in hopes he would be here. I see him occasionally in Safeway or something.
I remember Red Dog when we were working in some jazz band piece, stage band piece. I guess we called it stage band back then. It was in '76 when I was still in high school in Thatcher playing in band. And we would be there in practice and rehearsal, and he'd be working these drum solos, and you would stand up there on the podium and throw pennies, and he'd catch them in his mouth while he was playing, breaking a stroke. It was amazing.
We had some amazing musicians. We've had some amazing drummers in our and Red Dog was another one. But Fuzzy Gardner is he's a legend all by himself.
What's he doing now?
Fuzzy?
Yeah.
Last I heard, Fuzzy was the head of food services or something with Hotel Utah or something up there. Of course, Hotel Utah's out of business, isn't it? I don't know what he's doing. Whatever, yeah, he's still around.
We're going to create some more memories. Paul Phelps is here with his trusty camera and flash. And we're going to take a group photo. And we're going to actually take a couple, and what we're going to do is we're just going to give everybody a chance to stretch their legs a little bit. We're going to go out to the foyer, and the first photo that we're going to take is we're going to take an entire group. So this is alumni and guest, just the whole big group, and then we're going to dismiss the extras and do some alumni shots. So while Mr. Phelps is...
I set up some chairs out here in the foyer.
He's ready for us. And then we're going to come back, and then we can share memories.
Let's let everybody think of a memory, because we want to share them. I don't know that you'll top the 1812 overture, but
And it was awful hard to play your horn.
Still there.
See, we can close ranks. Come on, Lydia, Clark. So we can...
No.
It was professional.
Right on up to the chair.
boy, do I feel old. I feel like one of these old 19th century
This is not a half hour for the photo to take.
Is that why they did that?
Yeah, they all look grumpy because they sat there forever. They finally developed it.
Stop it.
All right.
What do you think, folks? They look pretty good.
I think it looks great.
I know better.
Any other smoke cameras here? Dave? Okay. Boy, he's in. You're just chomping to go, aren't you? Like, let's get back into that story. He never did. Tell lies. Let's go. Come on. 1, 2, 3. Try to get in here.
My golly, we got some great flaming footers here.
I was on the band side.
I was going to go down and somebody needs to remind me about the story of Squad 8 that went on strike. Anybody remember that? They made a picture. They thought they were so famous, they made their own thing. It says Squad 8. I see Phil McBride was in it. I don't know if anybody else. Carrie, you need to tell us, I have been asked about Animal. Would you like to tell us what happened to Animal?
There's still more food there, guys, too.
Isn't that why you quit being a band director? Wasn't it that year?
Why? Because, yeah.
So I came back from Washington, D.C., and I came back to EA. I was in the band. Dr. Keith had retired from band at that time, moved on. And I was looking in one of the boxes that all the stuff was going into storage. All the awards from your era, all Animal and everything were stuffed in a box, and they were just going to be tossed into the storage area.
Oh.
I couldn't let that happen. Animal had been too much to everybody. So Animal, unfortunately, was not feeling well tonight, so he had to stay home. He currently resides at my house at a very predominant place, along with all my other EA memorabilia. Eventually, I don't know if I can part with it and send it to Dr. Keith, but I'll send it to him. And so he can take his rightful home back.
Animal would have a home in my office. It would be a great conversation piece. Incidentally, if Animal and Piggy came around about the same time, I think Piggy has now fallen apart, and I think Dr. Lund is looking for a replacement or whatever. Now, Rhonda, you were going to share your favorite memory.
Well, not my favorite, but one of my most memorable ones was when we were doing Man of La Mancha, and there was a fight scene going on. And I think it was the dress rehearsal or something. The guy that's supposed to flip off the stage onto the mattress miscalculates and flips directly on top of the entire trumpet trombone section. We spent the whole rest of the performance, every time you're getting up to this, there's this rod of tension going down your back, and you're trying to play and look up at the same time. Get ready to duck if it happens again.
If any of you remember Man of La Mancha, any Man of La Mancha era guys here? If you remember Man of La Mancha, Dr. Wilson had this rake stage. You know, he fixed it so that it started high and then got low. Actors had a terrible time adjusting to that. They were constantly doing things and falling over there. I want to hear much more. Charlie.
I got to follow the well.
The which?
I got to follow the well.
You followed the well.
Yeah, they built a well in the orchestra pit, and I got to fall backwards into the well.
That's right, you did. Yeah.
I did hurt myself.
In 70, when we just had 11 people, we were told that if I read your obituary in the paper, you're an excused absence.
Yeah, that's hung around for a long time.
He was just in us last year, too.
We also chanted, we know where you're going, we know where you're going.
Well, and then we had the times when the football team was so bad that people would come and watch the band and then leave after the band show. And this band had to stay and finish watching the football game, and everybody else got to go home.
Does anybody remember the fight, though?
Oh, yes.
The Arizona Western fight. That was the fight to end all fights. I guess the one at Glendale last year was just as good. But we had this linebacker from Hawaii. His name was Kalili Hunt.
Oh, yes.
Remember Kalili? And he was a good kid. And he made us one of those percussion things when Barzan was out. Anyway, we were playing Western. And it was a very close game, and we're right down to the end. And I can't remember exactly what happened, but I remember Kalili chasing this kid about 45 yards down into the end zone, and he decked him. And I mean, it was a fight to end all fight, and the band was starting to get up. So I did the good thing that every band director should do. I had you all play the fight song. That was the only way I could keep you in the stands. And when I got through, the dean said, "That was a mistake, Mr. Keith. He said, what you really should have had him play was the national anthem." That was...
3 of their players and a cheerleader.
Yeah, we put more, I think we put 3 of their kids in the hospital that night. We lost the game, but we won the fight. So,
I have one for you.
okay.
I have to demonstrate though. Sorry, you've got to scoot over just a little.
Oh,
Dr. Keith doesn't remember this, but one time he had a really bad cold when we were practicing for a concert. And I mean, there's nothing you can't do with Dr. Keith. I mean, everything's possible. And even if you screw up, it's still possible to sound good, right? So he comes in one day with a really bad cold, and he was coughing, and his nose was running. And he was trying to conduct the music, blow his nose, and drink water all at the same time. I mean, I tell you, we about cracked up and rolled on the ground, and he probably doesn't remember that, but I remember that. And so I think that's the greatest thing I remember about him. Is it doesn't matter how bad he felt, it didn't matter how much he had to do, he just never quit. He has more energy than life, so I'm just tickled to remember that part.
Can we see a rerun of that?
she brought that glass of water up there. I don't know what she's doing. And then there was the kids I picked on.
Oh, you know.
Any of you here the pickers? Oh, I didn't pick on Shelley. David Lay. Anybody remember David Lay? David Lay, one of the great pickers of all time. I love that kid. I hope he's, and I feel bad. I will go to my grave because he was so much fun to tease. He was one of those kids that you just couldn't get away without teasing him because he'd just always do it. But he was always there, and we had so many of them that were always there. I'll have to share with you, and this is confidential, okay?
Oh, no problem.
Stop filming.
Would you believe that our current band and band director is having some problems with the cheerleaders? Like that's never happened, right? The dean of students calls the other day. Mr. Keith, there's a real problem here. The band is here. And I start to laugh, and she says, why? I says, that's the way it's supposed to be. And she says, well, you know, we don't want to put anybody down. And I says, the problem is, and then especially in the early days of the band, remember how rowdy we were, and we were pretty cocky? And we didn't like what the cheerleaders were doing. We just, they would just do our own stuff. And we were bigger, and so we could make more noise. Yeah, it hadn't changed very much. But I do remember the Tim thing, and I remember getting in trouble one time because, you remember when our football team was so bad, and people along about third quarter would leave, and the whole band, we know where you're going. Haven't done that yet.
Haven't they taught the cheerleaders yet to follow the band's cue?
You'd think they'd learn that, wouldn't you? After. Now we have an excellent. I'll tell you the incident. Nobody except who's in this room will enjoy this, because nobody else will understand it. Really, you have to be a band kid to understand. You know, you have to have that mentality. And I do hope, in all honesty, we have an excellent cheerleading corps. Very, very good, and I'm not going to put them down at all. They're really good girls. And we do have, I am pleased to admit, we really have a hot band this year. They are excellent, and I'll never admit that they're as good as we were, but they're pretty good. And last week we had the football game. Of course, it was, and you missed it. That was a historic football game of the EAC history, because not only did we beat Snow College, we whooped them. I mean, the first time we've ever beat them, we probably never beat them again. But boy, we just whooped them. And we had this really, really great band show, and the flags went, and our pom-pom girls and all that. It was great, and they came and they marched off the field. And immediately after they marched out the field, guess what? The cheerleaders went out on the field and did a little routine of their own. Now, being the band kids that you are, what do you think happened? Hey, what are you doing on our turf here? You know, you didn't ask us if you could go out and do that routine. And so that's one of the little things I've been dealing with this year as a dean. That's part of my job. And I will have to admit to you, as in a deanship, and Dr. Lund especially tells me this once in a while, and Dr. Wilson, you know, they get a guy who says, boy, have you become an administrator. You know? But I have to share with them, and all I say, that when I was in the band room, my vision was about that wide. You know, if it didn't have to do with the band, it just didn't happen. You know, up to and including the obituary. You know. Do you remember? I remember at least 3 times we pulled kids off the field, took them to the hospital. That was all right. We said, fine, as long as soon as the band show's over, we'll take you to the hospital. We should not, you're not going until then. Anyway, when later on when they made me Fine Arts Division Chairman, then my world expanded a little bit to at least it included drama and art. And became pretty well engrossed in that. And now I'm in a position where my horizons have to be very wide, and I'm almost, I don't really like to say this, sometimes I have to make decisions that I don't like to make, that I wouldn't have made if I were just band director. I was talking to Mr. Phelps about it today. I guess I really ripped on him one time in the newspaper because he had a student editor who thought they were some kind of a music critic, and they ripped the band. That was not something good to do when Mr. Keith was there. So I went and ripped the editor. And Mr. Phelps said, I still remember how you ripped on that girl. I said, well, she didn't know enough about band to know what she was talking about. Let's talk some more. Anybody else? Kathy?
Well, you talked about taking kids off the field and taking them to the hospital. What about taking them out of the hospital and putting them in the pit?
We've done that too. Yeah, who got out of the hospital and in the pit?
Kim had her baby and went and played for graduation.
Kim! Yes, I remember Kim.
Then she had to go back to the hospital and get her baby.
I remember.
They graduated.
Yeah, she graduated and played in the orchestra with her.
I also remember taking Kim on tour.
She was moving real slow.
We've got a similar one. If you remember, our first daughter was born the evening of a parade that we played in. She found out it was very difficult to play the clarinet during a contraction.
Yeah, we just don't have those kind of band kids.
This is a different story. I remember going to Mazatlan, and your wife being about this big,
I
and saying
remember
the
that
only
one,
thing
too.
she wants to do is go to the sand, dig a hole, and lay down on her stomach.
And then I had contractions on the way home.
Yeah,
and
she was
thought-
having contractions
thought
on the way
that
home.
last
Thank goodness
baby
Janine
was-
Carpenter was with us.
Yeah,
We thought we were going to deliver a baby right in the middle of Mexico.
like between Guaymas and Hermosillo, as I
Yeah.
recall.
Yeah, those,
Well, I remember when we were on tour, we were in Tucson and stayed at the hotel, and Ernie Menahudi was singing in the bar. Oh! Remember? And he decided that he heard that we were there, and so we put on a show. The jazz band played out in the little shell for Ernie Menahudi, and we did a little show. And then afterwards, there were a bunch of us that were out in the pool, and it was Ernest. Jerry, were you there?
No, I'm fine.
It was Ernest Dillman and Neil was there, and I thought you were with us. Anyway, there was a bunch of us in the pool, and back in the back is the guest house. And this big black limo pulls up, and somebody comes out of the guest house and opens the door and says, "Well, welcome, Mr. He says, "The young ladies are waiting for you inside." And he goes inside, and Ernest and I kind of look at each other, and I said, "I really don't feel good about being here." He says, "I don't either, let's go." And we headed in, and come to find out it was one of the big mafia dons, and he was coming to the guest house right there, and we were right here, and it was just kind of...
one of the things I remember about that trip is Roger Munoz and some other kid, I can't remember what it was. Anyway, they went out in the parking lot and staged a fight.
Yes, and they called the cops.
And we had 14 cop cars. And they almost hauled Roger out to jail. No, I was just kidding.
It was a joke. It was a joke. That was the same trip.
Dad,
Yeah.
Same night.
I was little, well, I was probably 12 or 13 when you finished being a band director, but what a fun way to grow up. Because I went to all the Eac football games. My mom was sitting there with all these little kids. I grew up going to dress rehearsals. The auditorium was our playground. I was
Our
climbing.
percussion section.
After I was married, I was climbing over some seats in the auditorium, and my husband was saying, "Don't do that." And I was like, "What? This is no big deal. You should see what we used to do." But I remember going back to the band room after football games and watching the video and how nice you guys were to us kids, and you made us feel so important and so special. So thank you, and thank you for coming and supporting my dad.
Well, I think one thing about your kids, because I was an only, and so it was like having a bunch of little brothers and sisters. And
Yeah, they had a lot of babysitters.
I went through a ton of crushes. All my first crushes were band students.
Oh, no. We're sorry.
We got to talk about the Christmas parties at Mr. Keith's house. And if you recall, one year I had a friend who was an alcoholic. He'll remain anonymous, but he used to live about 2 or 3 blocks from us. And this was right about the time that Dr. Lunt came, and we were rejuvenating a lot of stuff, and the choral department was getting huge and stuff, and everybody was a band choir. So we all got this idea that at midnight we go out in my front yard to sing the Hallelujah chorus. Yeah, you know, we went out in our front yard and we sang this Hallelujah chorus, and it was beautiful. Midnight. It was December, the stars were shining. 2 or 3 days later, this guy came by to visit, and he says, "I had a heavenly manifestation." I says, "You did?" Yeah, he says, "I'm quitting drinking." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what's going? He says, you know, he says, in the night, he says, I was just coming home. I don't think he was sober then, to be honest with you. He said, the night I was just coming home and I was getting out of my car. He said, all of a sudden I heard this choir of angels. They were singing the Hallelujah chorus. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that, well, you should have been over to our house. You really could have enjoyed it. But I think that was, and we have some pictures of that somewhere. I don't know where.
Mr. Keith, do you know what the band count was from 70 to 72? What it increased? Do you remember?
From 70 to 72? Oh, that was our great growth years. Oh, yeah, because with that magnificent 11, by the end of the first week, we were up to about 24, and we lasted at 20, pretty much like that. Became a decent band. And by 72, I think, was 72 when we went to the Festival Parade?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we were pretty hot.
We were awesome.
And,
Performance on the side of the road.
and when we, anybody, remember any of you the old rodeo parade days? I got to tell you a story of Mr. Schroyer. My predecessor, Mr. Schroyer's band, and they were having the other reunion over here tonight. And one of the guys proudly told me that he was in the EA band that beat the U of A at the rodeo parade. He says, Mr. Lee, Jack Lee, Mr. Lee still remembers when EA beat U of A at the rodeo parade. He says, you need to know that never again in the history of the world will anybody ever get any better than second place in a rodeo parade. But because us judges thought you were the best, we changed the plaques. I was 71, maybe 70, any of the old rodeos, it was about that time. Yeah, we were there.
We went to Disneyland in 71 or 2, didn't we? March down Main Street?
Well, I don't remember that one. I think that must have been a Safford. That was, well, they never let us go out of state except for when we go to New Mexico. We go to New Mexico and do the Carlsbad Cavern sing.
Oh, yeah, that was fun. Carlsbad Cavern tour.
I remember some of those great tour concerts. I remember a tour concert in Williams. The snow and the jazz band was really hot. And I remember, I think it was In the Mood, and we were playing that, and an old student buddy got up and danced. And we had a lot of fun. That was a great time. Any more memories? Albert?
I don't know if you remember this, but Jerry was the student body president when I started. So Jerry, very first day I showed up at EA, he convinced me, you got to run for president, freshman class. I go, what does that have to do with band? He convinced me to run, and then I forgot who the sophomore was, but when I won, the sophomore class president won. Jerry was in band, but all the officers of the school were in band. And you were so overjoyed. We're going to take over this school. And we did. That was the goal.
Hey, that used to be our big recruiting thing. If you either had to be in the band or the choir, or you weren't on nothing in school.
That's true.
Well, I can talk about the one show in the 3 years that I attended at EA that we didn't have a show. It was a Saturday afternoon game, and we came and had just an incredible storm. Duncan flooded that year. That very storm.
I remember. Was that the year we whooped Rick's?
It might have been.
No, we whooped Northeast Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dr. Keith canceled the show. The band wasn't going to have to go. Somebody goes home. There's about 11 of us decided, you know what? We're going to do it anyway. So we grabbed and Dr. Keith was excited because he was going to get to go announce the show and not have to leave the band. And he went up to announce the show. Well, we went up in the stands. It's about 11 of us, 10, 11 of us, and we played the national anthem. And by the end of the show, we had all but 6 of the band members there because they heard us. And they all came and got their instruments and joined us by the time the end of the game was over.
Well, I don't know how many football games we've all seen.
I'd just like to see you conduct one more time.
Mr. Sullivan has given me the blessing to let me conduct the national anthem tomorrow. Want to bring your horns and come?
Yes! I'll do the fight song.
We could. I just don't want to embarrass him. We could can tell stories about Greg Gatter and Freddie Gardea forever. I don't know about the drummers. I had these drummers that were crazy.
Talking about, bringing everybody together and the band taking over the school was that one year where myself and Gail Shumway, you said, let's show them and let's make these people the homecoming king and queen. Sure enough, everybody in the band voted and
The pictures in the scrapbook over there. You got to see that. Yeah, it's fun. Greg.
I have a lot of various memories and so forth, but I remember one short time I was allowed to take care of the soda machine. I remember this because I decided to put the sodas in not the right order. Yeah. So people would go in the back room, get a soda, it's like, this isn't 7-Up. This isn't Coke. I didn't take care of the soda machine long. But I want to thank you so much because the two most influential people in my life have been you and Dr. Blunt. And just everything everyone's already said about the energy and the light that you've given to all kids as an educator and just as a person. I want to tell you thank you from the bottom of my heart. Because that...
Don't say those kind of things.
Okay, he's a dirty, rotten scoundrel. No, but seriously, we had a lot of fun, and I know we had a lot of fun with our percussion section, and we were a little bit ornery, I guess.
This just comes with the territory. That's just percussionists.
It was just East Arizona College.
I just want to tell you thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I don't know if it's just enough. I think that there still are probably somewhere. We've been bemoaning the fact that, Thatcher's band program is down. Safford's band program is down. Everybody's band program is down. And I think over in the valley they still have some pretty strong programs. But, and I was talking to somebody the other day about it, and they said, what's the difference? And I said, well, the difference is we don't have the kind of kids like you guys were. And I just kind of collectively call ourselves band jocks. That was it was Colin Hoagie, who's no longer with us. And I think there's a few others who are no longer with us. Billy Meek, remember Billy Meek, trombone player, no longer with us. And I think, out of all the hundreds of band kids that I've had, and I don't know how many, maybe thousands by the time I count, I had 22 years behind a podium. Really the special ones are right here. And I was scared. I was scared when Kathy got this idea because I was afraid the ones I really wanted to see wouldn't be here. But you all are. I appreciate you. I love you. Have some fun. Bring your families tomorrow. Feel like Rulon Gardner. Did you watch him? You watch him on the Tonight Show where they had the whole city after in the gym? You made Jay Leno cry?
Everything tomorrow is, the family thing. Obviously, you paid for tickets for just the two of you or whatever for the fall sing, the football game. I'm going to have to buy tickets for my girls for the football game. The fall sing, I won't get to sit in the group because every year for the past lots of years, I take pictures of the spring sing and fall sing for Dr. Nunn. I usually shoot through 9 or 10 rolls of film. So in the middle of it, when you see all those flashes coming from the back, that's me. Yes?
Does that have something to do with your photo mat days?
You're going to do that, aren't you?
And you're lucky because it's sold out.
Oh, that
Yeah.
days.
And watch for the blonde-headed piano player.
Oh,
Okay. You guys know me, Kathy Black, Scott. I was Black longer than I was Scott, but I'm a Scott now. This is my husband, Mark. I caught him, literally. After our first date that was set up for us, I knew I was going to marry him. 2 days later, he decided the same thing, but he didn't know if he had pneumonia or if he was really in love. He had pneumonia. He was also in love, so 9 months later, we got married. These are our three. The only reason that they're really here tonight is because we didn't want to leave them down on our 40 acres behind Red Knoll, and I know all of you know where Red Knoll is because many of you have partied there. But we have 40 acres back behind Red Knoll where we have a mobile home, and we were there the last few years until May, and then Mark went back to school. If you notice, I graduated from EAC 25 years before he did. He graduated last year with a machine degree and is working down in Tempe as a machinist, and so that took our family down the valley. When we came back to the valley, I got a job here at EAC as the admin assistant to the food service director for Sodexo Marriott, who does the food service, and so my office was right through there for 7 years, and I left it in May, and it's been really hard coming back. Yeah.
You live there.
Yes, my girls grew up in this building. Jenny's 14, Kristen is 12, Hannah is 8. We're now living in Apache Junction, where I am the admin assistant to the food service director at Williamsville campus, so come over and see me. And Mark is working as a machinist. Jenny's a freshman at AJ High School, and who has an awesome band, she says. So the football team's not real good, but the band's great.
We're used to that.
Yeah. Kristen is a middle school 7th grader, and Hannah's an old 3rd grader. This is what happens when you don't get married till you're 30. You're an old person with young kids.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, but I just, when you guys read in the little blib in the letter that came out, Gary and I were talking one day, and I said, you know what I would really like to do? I would really love to see some of the people that we had in band. And I said, let's have a Ron Keith Band Reunion. He says, great idea, do it. You're in charge. I'm like, thank you very much. And I thought he was kidding. And then I asked him, he said, yeah, you're in charge. Go ahead and do it. And so I'm glad that I had this inspirational idea because Dr. Keith made a really big impact in my life, in my music, and just in my whole way of being, I guess. And I know he affected all of you the same. And so I'm really glad that all of you came to share this time with us and the next step that's going on tomorrow. And look forward to meeting your family, hopefully, if you brought kids and stuff, and getting to know them and introducing my kids to them and starting another generation of band people. Jenny plays clarinet, Kristen plays clarinet, Hannah plays around. She plays a little recorder, so she's going to be a clarinet player too. And the only reason that we're doing clarinet is because we had the clarinet. So we'll go on to other instruments. But thanks for being here, guys. It was everything I was hoping that it was going to be, and that's just because all of you guys are here. Thanks. Go for it, Sheree.
I'm Charlene Greer-Clough, and I'm from St. John's. And I had an awesome band teacher in St. John's. I started playing clarinet when I was 6. And I had 9 brothers and sisters, and we all played an instrument, and so did my parents. So, pardon? Tracy Hansen, yeah. And so when I got ready to come to EA on music scholarship, Mr. Hansen told me, there's a great guy you're going to love. And he has more energy and more life than I ever thought of having. And he's new down there, and you'll really like him. And he said, so get involved and just let him teach you. And so when I met Mr. Keith, I thought, gosh, he has so much energy, because I have a lot of energy, but Mr. Keith beats me on that one. But I just want to thank him because he's awesome, and he's a person you can never forget. He has a wonderful family. He has a very supportive wife. But to tell you a little bit about me, I've been married 25 years. I have 6 kids. My oldest is 25, and my baby just turned 12. I have 3 girls, 3 boys. two girls are married, and then I have an oldest son. He's in Scotland in the Edinburgh Mission there, and he's in a little city called Inverness. It's where the Loch Ness Monster comes from. And in case you're wondering, he told me the reason why they know there was a Loch Ness Monster is because Columbus saw it, supposedly. So, anyway, and I have another son in college at NPC, and he's a team roper. And then I have a little girl, 14, a little boy, 12. And they wanted to come, but we just lost my husband's mother to breast cancer. And so it's been kind of tough because we've been taking care of her the last couple of years. So, but I think this was great. Kathy, Dawn, Gary, I mean, we kind of go way back. We kind of got Mr. Keith when he was new here. But
when I had hair.
yeah. But I just had to share that with you, that little story with you, because he could keep time, and no lie, he could drink and blow his nose and not mess us up. So I was really impressed. I mean, sicker than a dog. So I figured I could turn out to be something from his college. So anyway, but thank you, Kathy, for doing that. So thank you, Mr. Keith. We love you, and we love your family. You're awesome.
Tim Nicholson. I worked for the Boy Scouts 26 years, national office, and I'm Sacramento, California. My son Kevin and Stephen both played trumpet when they were in high school, and my daughter Erin is 19 now, and I have a 4-year-old at home. Not to one up you.
That's okay.
He'll probably play the trumpet since it's up in the attic. And out of all the teachers I've had throughout, 14 or whatever years of, 16, 17 years of going to school, Ron Keith stands out in my mind the most. And that's why I made the effort to come here tonight. He participated. He wasn't a standoffish kind of guy. He, gets his arm right around you, and he's right with you. And lots of fond memories. It's great to hear some of the other stories that after I left that, it carried on. So, Ron, you're a great man, and we're all lucky to have you here.
I'm Denise. I was Powell, then I was Mellison, then I was Powell, now I'm Hamilton. I graduated in '75. I was in the band 2 years. Then I lived in Australia for 3 years. Got married, got divorced. My oldest is 9, my youngest is 7, and he's had 2 saxophone lessons at our elementary school where I help. Out of 500 students, 100 are in the band. I got the right school district. And I'm happy to be here because I had the best time in band.
Yeah, I'm going to try not to get long-winded here, but I had a good teacher. Yeah, it took me a long time to get it right. And then even at the end of my career, I couldn't stop on the right hash marks. I have to tell you that being in Dr. Keith's band helped me make a decision about what I wanted to do as a career. And so consequently, I was a band director for 15 years, and I incorporated things into my band that I experienced with Dr. Keith. We had Pizza Squad, and some of my band kids remember Pizza Squad. And as a high school student playing in the college band, going to Pizza Squad with all of the cool old guys, and all those gorgeous women that were like 4 years older than me, and that I had terrible crushes on. And so I incorporated a lot of those things in my teaching that I got from Dr. Keith. Even when technology came along and you could chart a band show with a computer, I still use those little pencils and write things out like Dr. Keith would and give the kids the pages and say, here it is, man, you can do this. And I even remember using the same kinds of stories that Ron would use in my band. So, and then following Dr. Keith again, when he got out of band, I took over the EAC band. And boy, was that a tough job to follow my mentor. And but the one cool thing about that was it showed me that I wanted to teach on the community college level rather than wrestle with junior high school band kids. And so because of that, I went back to school and was able to teach on the community college level. And then the thing that brought me back to the Gila Valley
which is something that we wanted to do, was being able to come back and do the band at EAC and follow in Ron's footsteps. But I have to tell you, it's not easy having your old band director be your boss. that bites. But Ron was always very supportive of that band program. How many of you remember those cheers that Dr. Keith taught us? Remember, rah, rah, ree, kick him in the knee, rah, 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 kick him in the upper knee. I have to tell you, I was always tempted to say that other word. Okay, how about dumb get a rat trap, dumb get a cat trap, dumb get a rat trap, cat trap, rat trap, sis boom bah, monsters, monsters, rah, rah, rah! Oh yeah!
Bobo's eating
There were a couple of others that we improvised on that I won't repeat. But we have great fond memories of that and of the Keith family going to the Christmas parties and staying afterwards and hauling equipment and all kinds of things like that. I have a beautiful wife from Snowflake, and we have 4 kids. If you go to the spring sing tomorrow night, notice the drummer for the backup group. That's my son. Very handsome, talented kid. And I have to tell you that he got all of his rhythm from his Uncle Freddie. When we were going to college, you know, you said that you could do anything with Ron. We went to him with the idea that we wanted to make this rock band thing, and he said, okay, you could use the facilities. And I said, well, you know, how about if we make any money, we'll pay you 10% of it for, you know, like to replace the heads and stuff. And so we made this incredible, in fact, we're going to have a reunion tour tonight, the Adobe Mansion. Oh yeah, all up in there. Anyway, so Betty was expecting our first child, and she was our lead singer. Lacey was the bass player, Fred was the incredible drummer, and I was the bongo player and the trombone player, and every once in a while I would try to sing. And they wouldn't let me get close to the mic very often. Anyway, so Betty was expecting, and you know, educational theory says that children learn even in the womb. And so my son has this incredible rhythm that he didn't get from me. And we can just attribute it to Freddie and Lacey playing bass and drums in the band, and Betty would sit right by the speakers and he'd be kicking along with the music. So you'll see that tomorrow night. Anyway, right now, after being the band director for 2 years, I got out of band just like Dr. Keith. I went in and became the recruiter for the college, just like Dr. Keith did, and I also do scholarships. So let me tell you what, folks, Eastern Arizona College is the oldest community college. It's also one of the coolest. We have the only community college marching band in the state of Arizona. If you want someplace good to send your kids, you call me, we'll get them here. So that's what we're doing.
I have to follow him? That's a hard act to follow. I'm in Eldridge Week. I married Darrell Weeks from Pima. We live in Pima, so I think we got the prize for going the farthest. Way over there. I was in the band, let's see, 1980 to 82. In those 2 years in there, we had a lot of fun. And my biggest memory is night on Bald Mountain, that routine. But we hated the music. The music was awful, and we thought we can never do this routine. And then we pulled it off for the band day, for the pregame show, and it was a perfect show. Didn't miss a beat. Went back to the band room afterwards, and we're just all pumped. It's great. Perfect show. Let's see. I met my husband 10 days before he went on his mission, and that's when I first come down to EA, and so we wrote for those 2 years, and it took us another year after that to finally get together, and he was back at EA, and I was at AMU, and we have 4 children. We have a 12-year-old, 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and an 18-month-old. So, quite a span now. And to say, I get to stay home with them, go to school a lot, and our oldest one plays clarinet, which is what I've had. So it's been fun. The band program he was starting to pick up, and got a good director this year. I'm excited about that. And I came from Coconino High School in Flagstaff, and I went from a huge band of over 100 down to this band where we had probably about 70 when I was there probably. And it was different in that way, that it was just as much fun, if not more, because we were smaller. We got to do more crazy things. here that live down here. And we say a whole lot more, but thank you, Dr. Keith and his family, they're always really supportive. Appreciate that.
Well, Darrell's got to do his turn.
Sorry.
You played in the band.
I was never in the band at DA.
You were never in the Eac Band?
I was asked to leave the band 2 years in a row. And
If you'd like to know a few of the reasons why, see me after class.
Any of you remember Patty Valdez?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Okay, Patty has a brother named Adam. Adam is my son-in-law. He married Kelly. And soon after he got home off his mission, Kelly was in the band, and Adam knew that the only chance he had at all was to be in the band. And so like some, not any of you here, but if you remember the old days that say, you know, where's your left foot, this is it, you can be in the band. Well, that's what Adam did, except he's the most bow-legged guy you've ever seen in your life. And so when you see the EA band pictures, there's Adam. Did absolutely nothing that year except chase Kelly. So that's all right. You could have made it. We wouldn't have thrown you out.
We had everybody in
I
there.
thought I should run the band. And the teachers thought they should. We just clashed.
Okay, Freddie.
Don't talk about the photo band.
My name's Fred Gardea. The way I started when I got down here, I didn't know I came from Globe. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I thought we had an outstanding marching band program with the Globe. So when I didn't know what to expect when we got down to EA. And that's when I met Dr. Keith. And
What year?
It was in 78. I graduated in 79. Actually, I was down here a semester before that. And just fiddling around, trying to figure out what I needed to do. Then I got sucked into Dr. Keith's program. After I got out of EA, I moved to Los Angeles. I rock and rolled there for a while. Went to recording school. Tough life. So I decided to join the Air Force. When I joined the Air Force, I became the section leader of the Keystone Blue Knights Drum and Bugle Corps down there, that helped me a lot through there. And when I got to the regular Air Force, I had this master sergeant that talked me into getting my drums down into Florida. So then I country and western my way through Florida for 2.5 years. I met my wife Sarah. She couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately, had to work. We have little children. And live in the Valley. Work for Sovereign Project. I'm also a senior master sergeant in Arizona Air National Guard still. And let's see. I was going to mention the Adobe Mansion reunion tour, but Jerry already stole my thunder. And Dr. Keith, thank you very much. Thank you. Really enjoyed it.
I can't wait to hear about Lacey.
Come on, Lacey. Come on, Lacey.
Lacey's one of those you can't forget.
You no matter how hard you try, right?
You've been trying for years. I was thinking, remember one time Greg Farmer and I thought it was a dog show. We brought our dogs to the band practice on the field. Remember that? He had a Cocker Spaniel. I had a pit bull. It didn't work out right. But I was down here in 78, 79, 80. After I left, I went to NAU for a while, and had I listened to you, I would have finished my school then, but now I'm finally starting back to school. So I started at Western International University, so I finished my degree. I work with Salt River Project, I live down in Queen Creek. I'm kind of like a training analyst right now, helping the guys do their multi-skilling stuff. I have 6 kids, ages 7 to 22. Ages 6 to 22, I have one son who's on a mission in Atlanta, Georgia. And my other 2 boys are going to school in Gilbert High School. 2 of the kids play trombone, kind of. And I remember our band teacher got busted for selling dope at St. John's. Well, they didn't have much of a program, and I didn't really.
None of the band people are.
But other than that, you're all welcome. We're starting our tour, so you guys are all welcome to get the first
So
cut of our
where's this
album.
performance gonna be?
We'll have to get back with you.
We're gonna do this tomorrow at, midday,
I came down with a friend, and actually Dr. Purdy, Dr. Purdy, I came down with a friend from Clifton, and she was gonna come down and get a scholarship, and I just came along for the ride, sitting there in the interview, and he said, okay, you got a scholarship. I do? Okay. I can play the piano, and I played the flute. But actually, I tried to forget those years because I really wasn't very good. And I don't know how, but I ended up in the jazz band as a pianist, but I was not the best pianist. Diane Hoagie was the best pianist, but she also played the sax.
Yeah.
So he needed a pianist, and he did pick on me because I was not very good. I was one of those that...
You got paid for it.
I did? That's right, I did. But I also was in a choir.
Were you in the one where we used to go up to St. John's and play the proms?
Yes.
Hey, then you got paid.
I did do that. And it wasn't
Professional.
really
Great little town.
and it was enjoyable. It was, I really was wanting to go into PE. My mom wanted to go to PE. There's 3 of them. I really wanted to go to PE, so I picked up, started playing volleyball and tennis. And probably didn't practice as much as I should because of that, or I would have been better. I do still play the piano, but my flute I gave away. But it was for a good cause, somebody needed it. And I did stick with playing the piano, and then it wasn't. It was about, we've lived here in Central, which I'm a little closer than you guys. I didn't go very far. And my daughter brought home a girl when we moved over here. She was 15, and my daughter brought home a girl and said her name was Keith. And I go, anyway, come to find out, Dr. Keith was here still. And then it brought back all the memories. And so my daughter and his daughter have been good friends for a long time. It was a little hard for me to believe because I guess she wasn't born when I was here. I guess she was just a blink of your eye then. And I do remember parties at your house with the haystacks. Anyway, I'm really, really glad that I have those memories. I didn't introduce it. It just happened. I guess because Dr. Keith was hard on me, I worked harder and tried to be better. I didn't have a car, so I had to walk from across the post office. I lived down the street from the post office, across, and walk to the old band room and practice piano at 5 o'clock in the morning, every morning. And I'm sure it made me a better piano player because of it. That jazz band just had too much syncopated stuff. Anyway, they said they couldn't find my photo in the album, so I don't have a picture on here, but I am in the jazz band picture sitting at the piano in '71. I don't know where I was for the band picture because I did march in the band. I do remember practicing on the field and getting yelled at for getting out of line. And not keeping it going good. I married the year after, so I didn't come back that next year. My husband, or he wasn't my husband then, but he came home from a mission and we got married. I had every intention of coming back to school. I bought me some hot pants and all kinds of stuff. And I did get engaged before my husband got back from his mission. I was engaged to somebody else. And then I decided not to marry him when he got back. We got back August 7th and we were married September 10th. So it all happened kind of fast and kind of quick. And all my intentions of coming back went down the tube because he wanted to go to Mexico State. So that's what we did. We've lived around the valley. My husband's from Clifton. We lived in Clifton for about 12 years where we had a car dealership, Chevrolet dealership, which because of the Phelps Dodge hassles, troubles that they had, we ended up leaving there. Lived in Wilcox for 2 or 3 years, and then we were looking at land. When we lived in Wilcox, we were looking at land wherever we wanted to live. And we went driving around in the Safford, Thatcher, and all over, just doing nothing but driving. And we found a spot.
Heathens, if you know what I mean. And I bless you for it. But who brings you your Dr. Pibb then?
Who what?
Who brings you your Mr. Pibb now, though, out in the back door?
I have to drink the diet kind now.
Oh, that was one of the most clandestine things I ever did. It was so cool to bring them. Nobody see. No, nobody. Bring them up from Tucson and sneak them in. We had fun doing that. So I've been doing something good. There had been a few I wouldn't have gone to college. That's a fact. Graduated from Saudi High School. We had 42 kids in our senior class. And I knew I wanted to go to college. Didn't have no money. You know, parents worked at the mines and stuff. And I went up to U of A, and they said, well, we'd like you to play golf, but we'll give you this much money. And that's why we didn't want to things that had 1,000 kids. I said, all right, this is not me. You called my band director, and he told you about me, God knows why. And you called me 3 times, and finally said, well, come up and sit in with the jazz band. Well, we didn't have a jazz band to speak of. In fact, the 42 graduating kids, the band was about 14 people. But I came up and I sat in here, and you were so enthusiastic about going to college. And I hemmed and hawed and shy cowboy, and I said, well, I ain't got the money. Well, that's the only thing holding you back. We can fix that. And you did, and I came, and I was very, very blessed that I did. And since then, I got a bachelor's in music performance from U of A, a master's in music performance from the U of A, and didn't make one dime on either one. In fact, it cost me money. You know what you like to produce an album? You didn't teach us that stuff, man.
Besides that, he stayed at the Pioneer.
I was so nostalgic to come over here. I drove over here from Palm Springs. I live in Palm Springs area. And I said, I want to stay where we used to stay when we were playing football. And she's not going to speak to me for a week. This is my wife, Jeanette. We have a 6-year-old that's back at the good hotel with Albert's kid. I imagine I'm going to be up all night with the flashlight looking for scooters. But still, I'm very happy that I've come here. And you have influenced my life in so many ways because of your enthusiasm and getting me to come to the university and to get an education and to understand that some podunk cowboy from nowhere could achieve something and become somebody. And I'm now the Traffic and Transportation and Development Division Director for the City of Cathedral City, California, which means that the developers that want to build golf courses have to come to me first. And I love it. So thank you very much. And all the stories that I can remember, I can't remember any bad stories. It was just so much fun. We had so much fun. It just, watching the other band, Margaret Hines and Red Dog Gardner and Roger Munoz. Although I have to admit, watching Roger Munoz trying to imitate Maynard Ferguson. How that boy, has he had kids? I don't know how. But thank you and bless you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Margaret is still singing. Incidentally, she won the prize at the county fair.
Wow.
Sounds just like Aretha Franklin.
Hi, my name's Al Orderica. The reason I came to EA is I was in band at Miami High School, and we used to come down here for competition. And Mr. Keith was the judge, and he was very kind to me. And I liked EA, and I knew the band director. And so when I started, Mr. Keith was just, hey, it's good to see you and stuff. About a year later, he came up to me, and I thought he recognized me. A year later, he came up to me. You realize that I was your judge at one time? I go, yeah. We're psychologically wed. We got married in January of this year. It's kind of our 2-year anniversary for dating my wife Jenny, or 3 years. I was married once before, and Jerry said that. What'd you say? He said it was good. I got out of that marriage, but between us, we have two kids. We have an 18-year-old who's going to what? Oh, 4 kids. We have 4 kids.
You like to try again, Albert?
She knows somebody you hired just for this.
We have an 18-year-old going to graphic design school, and Gary, I wish you'd talk to my daughter. She's 17 years old. She decided she wanted to go to university in Miami.
Let's talk after, we'll get after that.
Well, she's in Miami right now, so I kind of too late. You gotta have a 16-year-old girl that's still in high school, and a 14-year-old boy that's in grade school. And what? Oh, 12.
That's his.
I know I'm amongst friends here, but I get nervous. But,
Where are you living now?
What's that?
Where are you living?
I'm living in Phoenix. Studied electronics here, even though I was in band and jazz band and all that. Everybody thought I was a music major, but you know, I was an electronics major. I started working for Honeywell. I've been in the same plant for 23 years, but as the electronics industry is going, it was Honeywell, and then this computer outfit from France started investing money. It became Honeywell Bull. Well, soon Bull had more money into it than Honeywell, so it became Bull, Honeywell, NEC. So finally Bull bought the whole thing, so we were just Bull. We're in 75, started in 75 and left in 77, graduated in 77. And I miss it.
Well, just think, you could have been a music major and been poor and not had all that.
But I miss this place, and this, my wife passed through here years ago, but you know, I wanted to look around and see the area a little bit better, but I'm glad to be here.
I'm not a band person. I'm kind of adopted. I feel like I'm here by proxy or something like that. But I do have many memories of Dr. Keith. The musicals I did at EA were some of the finest moments of my life. I especially remember Hello Dolly and now launch a title Liberty whatever. And I remember how much I hated waiting those weeks and weeks and weeks with just a piano plinking along. Wait, when are we going to get the orchestra? When are we going to get the orchestra? And the orchestra showed up and said, man, have they practiced yet? And 7 days later, they were flawless. It was one of the finest dreams of my life was to work in those musical plays. I appreciate Dr. Keith for helping make that dream come true for me.
My name's Karen Mitchell. I was here during the latter years of Dr. Keith's reign.
Which time?
Okay, fine. I graduated from EA in 83, 87, and 86. I have 5 years as a full-time student. A little different. I don't know if I still hold the record for that, but I used to. I first came here after a few weeks at band camp. I was waking up with nightmares of somebody with a white hunchback, white legs, and purple shorts.
And a yellow hat.
Scared me to death.
Used to be yellow.
But,
I don't know whatever happened to that old thing.
I think it went away with animal. So, but I had some great times. I got suckered to come here from Serena by that loser. And I thanked him ever since for that. There were some great memories here, some great times. My time here at EA was separated by 2 years in DC. I went to U of A for 1 month. They had a horrible band, so I left. Came back to EA, finished up at EA with my 3rd degree, and went on up to NAU. They had an okay band. I stuck with it. 91, I got ranked as the best bass trombone player in the state of Arizona. At that point, I figured I'm not going to do any better, so I put the trombone away and have not picked it up since. Graduated from NAU. I'm now living back down in Sarita, taking care of my ailing mother, and managing a Radio Shack. So don't worry, my degree in industrial supervision, photography, and print technology went nowhere. 12 years of college, all totaled, has really helped me out. With the exception of the influence Dr. Keith had on me, and so much so that I styled my hips. You asked for it, you got it. But it's really been a pleasurable time, and probably throughout all of my life, the only times I'll remember will be from the game.
I don't know how I got
You can blame him.
I don't know how I got the opportunity really to come here, other than my band teacher, Mr. Hemwall, somehow steered me this direction. And I was so nervous when I came in to audition for you. It's probably the worst drummer you have heard.
Oh no.
I
won't say who it was.
Okay, I was the second. No. And this, my freshman year here probably was the hardest. You know, just getting accustomed to everything and so forth. But I came away with, for some reason, there was a gravitational pull here. I really couldn't figure out what it was. And I told Carrie, but hey, you gotta come to Eac. It's awesome. It's fantastic. And so we did, and then he became a professional student here for a number of years. Myself, I stayed here for 3 years. And I want to thank you, Dr. Keith, for that third year.
I remember that. That was a tough one to pull that one off.
Yes, it was. I don't know how you did it, but thank you very much. And it's kind of embarrassing to say, but I didn't graduate with a degree.
I made up for it.
Yes, I know you did. And I was 3 credits shy, and I know you were very disappointed for that. But I had aspirations. You know, I thought I really wanted to be in the music field and so forth, but I didn't want to perform because performing was too hard of a life. I didn't have the attitude or maturity to be a teacher. So when I got back home, I took a 180-degree turn, and for almost the past 17 years, I've been a professional firefighter, working with the Green Valley Fire District back home. And I've been starting in my 12th year as a paramedic as well. I haven't done a whole lot of music with my music since then, other than the past couple years. My father bought me a keyboard, basically synthesizer and so forth. And you'll be proud to know that I can actually play the keyboard a lot better now than when I was here.
You could be gotten worse.
Learn from fire service into teaching, you know, in the future at some point. This is my wife, Trina, and I'm always terrible at introducing her, so I'm keeping up with tradition. We've been married for a little over 9 years now, and we have 2 children. One who's almost 6 going on 16, and a little girl who's 2 who just turned 12 as well.
Who plays the keyboard better than you do?
Yeah, it's going to be very, extremely musically inclined. My son is a computer geek already, and music has always played a very important part in my life. And like I said earlier, you had a very profound influence upon me, and I just hope that through what little teaching I've done, both either at church or tutoring some of the kids there at high school, of sharing some of that enthusiasm and love that you shared with me. Thanks.
Oh, no, my nickname. But I'm Dave Olson, Buddha Olson. And I went to school with these jokers over here. That one over there. You're always there. I was raised up in Rensselaer, and so this was kind of a natural place for me to go to school. I was lucky to get a scholarship. But I still think the best trombone section we ever had is
Mr. Sorensen over there, Mr. Pogue, and myself, and Scott Powell.
Yeah.
You remember
Oh,
that?
yeah.
I don't know if I look good.
But I gotta tell you, do you remember the year we had more tuba players than U of A?
Yes.
And we played better too.
But I was lucky enough to follow a little bit along in your footsteps. I didn't get 15 years like Gary did as a band director. I only lasted 5. But
you wised up early.
I wised up. Wised up early. But
Your hearing's a lot better too.
that's why I was going out. I knew it was getting worse. And now I'm a school counselor in Silver City, New Mexico, in middle school. And we had my wife. I was lucky enough to come back as a band director and come and play with you. And I met my lovely wife Terry, who graduated from the band. She probably has a few words to say too. But we have 4 children, and we have 2 kids that are following in musical footsteps. I'm sure the other 2 when they get.
When Dave was reading the paperwork that we got to me, he said, what are your memories? And I can see Mr. Keith in those purple shorts and that thing on his back marching through the swampy field and us trying to slosh him around. And I remember we had 5 flute players. I was the 5th, and you only had 4 in a squad, so we put me in the tubas and the trombones. And now as I listen to my kids in their band, and they have a huge band, but the brass players you can hear and the woodwinds you can't hear at all, hardly. And I think, gosh, why was I even in the band if you couldn't hear me? One of the other memories that I have.
You know where your left foot was.
One of the other memories, and I don't know if you remember this, one year we had a Christmas party, and I think it was the first one that I'd ever attended, and about midnight, I went to leave, and I walked out the front door, and I saw a falling star, and so I stopped to look at it, and then I saw another one, and then another one, and I walked back in and said, hey everybody, there's a meteor shower going on. And all of us from in the house all came out and just stood there clinging to each other because we were freezing to death, and we just stood there and looked at the sky for about 20-30 minutes and watched this meteor shower. And I thought, we probably like Dorothy standing there. We all just stood there with our mouths open. We credit Mr. Keith for bringing us together, and we asked him to speak at our wedding reception, and he did a wonderful job. I don't know if we ever told him how much we appreciated that. And as Dave mentioned, we're raising a couple of band geeks, and actually we have 4 because their favorite music to listen to is swing or rock, and we're very good with that.
I remember him was coming to see me and telling me that I had a scholarship at EA. I wasn't going to major in music. In fact, I didn't major in music, but I was going to be a PE teacher until I got down the tubes. And then when I came, I was in the nursing program, so we had all the nursing programs. Then I had to go to orchestra and band also. And my husband and I got married in between our 2 years, and I got pregnant right away. And I had our little boy the day before I graduated, and so they left. They allowed me to keep him in the nursery at the hospital so I could come and go to graduation. And I remember one time in what was it? Anyways, it was a drama that was on, and I was supposed to play this one note that the man was supposed to sing, and he reached over and pointed at me, and the note didn't come out. And I know he was very frustrated because I just couldn't get that note out. But I appreciate him and all that he did for us.
so I just assumed he'd been here forever. I didn't know he'd only been here for a few years. And then the opportunity came for me when I was a senior in high school to come over and play. So I started in 1976. But I started in January of 1976, not in August of 1976. But I can remember some great experiences that we had during that first semester when I was a high school senior. And he made me feel like I was part of the band. He needed me to come play the baritone. But I played the trumpet for our jazz band over in high school. And so when I was here, he just said, well, why don't you bring the trumpet and play with the jazz band too, or the stage band is what we were calling it back then. And you know, I had more fun because he included me in things that I wouldn't have had an opportunity to do otherwise. Then I had, and I'll be careful about the way I say it, I had the misfortune of coming during the sabbatical year. It was a good experience playing for Mr. Berry, but it wasn't Ron Keith. It wasn't the same. It wasn't what I had come to know already. And so I just gave up and left for 2 years. Actually, I wanted a mission. But I came back 2 years later, and he was back, and the fun was back. And he just let me slide right back in and keep right on going where I was for that next year and a half. Like I said, my best experiences came with music. And one of them was that I left Eac Band, but I had made friends here. And I found my wife through Eac Band, although she never played in Eac. But I met Gail Shumway. When I was up at BYU, I went to go visit Gail, and her cousin had just come home from a mission, and I met her and married her. But I found my wife because of my participation with Eac Band. I wouldn't have found her if it hadn't been for that. She isn't able to be here tonight. We're living over in Apache, or Mesa. I almost called it Apache Junction. Our mail goes to Apache Junction.
You can
get to come over. She's really looking forward to an opportunity to do so. But my oldest son is 18. He's a senior at Skyline High School in Mesa. And I have a 16-year-old son and a 12-year-old son who's on a scout hike tonight, and a 10-year-old son. One of my great regrets in life is that none of them play in band now. My oldest son played in band for several years, but the other two started and quit. And the reason I look back that they started and quit is because they didn't have the kind of band directors that I did. Thank you.
I'm Dennis Sims. I was here from 77 to 79. After EA, I joined the Army, and I just finished retiring from there. I was in electronics. Most of the things I remember about the EA band were the good times. But I also remember the times when Dr. Keith was just beet red, furious with us, hollering at us. But we never left there without feeling good about ourselves. He always made sure we felt good. That's something that I will never forget. I met my wife in the orchestra. We married before we left band. So band was part of our lives and always will be. We have 4 children. The eldest is 20, 19, 17, and 9. All of which have been in a band, but only the youngest now, which plays the flute, is starting. And again, it's just like you said, you just don't have the directors like we did with Dr. Keith. If we had that now, there wouldn't be a kid that would quit. They'd all stick with it. And it's just an honor to be able to come back.
My name is Deborah Sims. I played off and on with the orchestra.
Who were you before you were Deborah Sims?
Oh, I was Deborah Wheeler, and I went to Stafford High School with Mr. Blair. But I played with the orchestra usually for the Messiah every year. And then in my senior year of high school, Mr. Keith came to Mr. Blair and said, I need an oboe player. Can I borrow yours? And so I thought that was cool. And so I came up and played with the Eac Band for the spring semester of '78. And in the orchestra for Camelot, and that's where I met my husband. And by the start of my first year of college, which was his second, the 78, 79 year. We were engaged, and Mr. Keith said, "Oh, I don't have my candidates for sweetheart now." Because you're engaged, it's official, so you're out of the running. But it was the best 3 semesters of band in all the years of band that I had, that started in the 4th grade. I learned more from you as a director than I did from anybody else. You taught me more. I loved music more. You took a group of people who some of them weren't the best players in the world, and you whipped them into something fantastic. You brought out the best in all of us, and we sounded wonderful. It was great. I'll never forget it. Thank you.
Well, first of all, you talked about he's talented at being able to drink and blow his nose and direct at the same time. Well, one of my most fun experiences was actually playing with him in the Messiah. He was playing first chair, I was playing second. And David Collette had this little calculator with these games programmed into it. And he's sitting there during the performance, playing up until 2 measures before he's got to play. He sets it down, picks up the trumpet, during the whole entire performance. So some people are talented. I'm Rhonda Crockett Easton, and my husband and I live in North Phoenix. We have 5 children from ages 5 to 13. And he wasn't able to be here tonight. My start with band, and start with Ron Keith, I guess, was when I was during the Solo and Ensemble Festival when I was in 8th grade, and I was playing. And when I was done, a couple of the older kids were watching me, and they said, "You've had it now." I said, "What?" When Ron Keith came out and was watching you. Okay, so who's Ron Keith? You'll find out. By the time I was a sophomore, I was in band. So I guess most of my music is involved with Mr. Keith. And Linnell and I were talking the other day. And I sort of laughed because she thought the same thing I did. She mentioned Dan Fogelberg's song, Leader of the Band. And I guess that's what you are to us. We love you.
I'm Rick Chappelle. I'm in the real best trombone section we ever had. That was 1981 through, I guess, 1984. I did the 3-year plan with Dr. Keith. You know, I actually found my wife in band. My wife was Linnell here. I was trombone, either first or second chair typically, and first year I was there, sitting there, and my wife was she always, didn't matter how well she played, she always wanted to play clarinet. She sat on the far end of the band. And her best friend was Jana Ashley, the saxophone player, who sat right in front of me. And my wife would sit there and mouth and talk to her all the time. I always thought she was talking to me. So, I mean, I found my wife through the band program, but we've been married now. We got married at EA. Matter of fact, I think one of the proudest achievements I ever had was Dr. Keith telling my wife and I that we were the best newlyweds he ever had because we didn't walk around moony all the time. We were pretty normal people after we got married.
The word was mushy.
Mushy. We were mushy. But anyway, I too spent quite a bit of time in the Air Force. After I got after EA, I joined the Air Force. I spent 10 years in before I decided I wanted to make more money elsewhere, which wasn't difficult. Design was better. I got to be in a drum bugle corps in the Air Force at Shepherd Air Force Base, where I actually got to conduct the band there, and continued. What I started at EA was arranging and doing music for the band there.
You still did. You were the one that did "Eye of the Tiger," weren't you?
That's right.
I hated that song after a while.
Well, she got to live through me listening to the tape over and over. Right. Anyway, I now work in Phoenix for the other electric company, APS. You guys are Brandeis. But anyway, let's see. We have 6 children now. Our oldest is a senior, and she never understood. We kept talking about how, our school bands that our kids have gone to. We were been through several school districts, being in the Air Force, and after we got out, just haven't been there. And I kept telling her about how easy it is to do professional programs. That's all we ever did. Our programs, and Dr. Keith and Dr. Lund both, everything we did was professional. You never did anything that wasn't professional. Leadership and professionalism were the things that I probably gained out of the band the most. But our kids have kind of taken a lot of this up. Right now we've got, matter of fact, another tradition that I started doing at EA. It was happening before, I think, but I got a bunch of other brass players. We go caroling in people's houses with our instruments. Now that I have enough children to do it, we have a quartet, and this year we're going to have a quintet. My oldest daughter is, she's a senior. She played clarinet, tenor saxophone, and bassoon now. She's our drum major, and they're at a football game at Independence High School right now. They'll go to Cortez High. Tomorrow they go to ASU Band Day. My next son is a sophomore. He's started playing trumpet. And in 8th grade, they had too many trumpet players for the jazz band. So he decided he wanted to be in jazz band. He played piano his 7th grade year. And my other daughter plays piano too. And so he decided he wanted to learn trombone so he could be in jazz band because they didn't have any trombone players. So in 2 weeks he started learning trombone. And then my next son, our artistic son, played violin for a while, but that hasn't lasted. Then we've got a daughter who's playing trombone now. She's in her 2nd year of trombone, and the next one's already picked out flute. She's going to be the flute player, and she's in 3rd grade. I wasn't going to say the age, but and then our youngest one hasn't picked out. I think she's hovering between our drums and clarinet. We'll see. But anyway, I tell people this all the time, that really some of the biggest influence I've had in my life has been band. At this time I play a whole bunch of instruments. I haven't stopped playing. My horn has never been put away for very long since I've left school. All through the Air Force I play in talent shows, I do backup bands for things. I've been playing in the Play It Again band, all the old farts that still play their instruments, go and march down the Fiesta Bowl. We'd love to have anybody come and play. Glendale Summer Band, all these things, and my kids have always grown up with this. Matter of fact, I was kind of telling Dr. Keith, we should have brought my oldest daughter because she was actually spent her first year of life in EA Band. My wife would bring her to sit the little child seat right after she was born. Next to her, she played clarinet, and she was, like I said earlier, she was delivered right after a parade. But anyway, the biggest thing I've noticed, as I mentioned earlier, some of the band programs my kids have been in, I've never been really happy with them. And I think tonight I realized why, and that's because it wasn't band director like I had. I mentioned earlier, I had the 3 best band directors I think a person could ever have. In junior high, I went to Sanford, I had Chuck Berry, then I had Dave Player, and then I finished off with Dr. Keith. I could not have had anything better. I've learned so much. Like I said, that's my whole life is around that now. We're playing all the time. So thank you, Dr. Keith. Thank you.
My name is Linnell Crockett Chappelle, and I'm from Pima. And when I was a senior in high school, the poor Pima band, the poor Pima band, I think there were about 5 or 6 of us, and I wasn't growing any, and so I asked if I could come play with the EA band, and I was graciously allowed to, and I dragged along Jana Ashley with me, and I'll treasure those memories always. I really will. They have shaped my life in more ways than I could possibly imagine, and it's continuing on through the next generation. I don't know anybody else around us that does as much music as we do, and it keeps our family together, and that's going to save us in the end, and I thank you very much.
Well, all I got to say is if I were to die tonight, I wouldn't have to go to heaven because I'm already here. I appreciate all of you. Kathy, it's your show.
My show. I have an 8-year-old that says she's tired.
I'm not surprised.
Tomorrow is another day.
see a lot of cheers. We'd like to thank the ASEAC Executive Council members, the ASEAC clubs that have participated in this year's halftime homecoming activities, and many other people who have put forth time and effort to help establish this year's event. Special thanks to the Criminal Justice Students Association and their advisor, Steve Johnson, for the sonic booms for the game and for the fireworks as well for last night's bonfire.